What's up, everybody? Clinton Fauché here, and
I'm Albert Chavez.
And this is Front Porch Chronicles, and we got a special guy on today. Long hair, don't care crew, Chris Mecate. Thank you so much. Right. He's got a fight coming up next month. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come check in with us. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. I just knew I saw the mullet and I was like, I gotta be part of that. Gotta be part of that. You know, exactly. Long hair, we connect, we get a little bit stronger.
Exactly.
So that's why I came.
Exactly. Appreciate it.
I know, dude. So, well, thank you, of course, for taking time out of your training schedule. I know you got a big fight coming up next month. But we kind of want to take it back because we know you're from Highland, not too far away out there. How was it kind of growing up around there on San Bernardino area?
Yeah, it was cool. I actually moved out there in 5th grade. We moved out there. Okay. So I was really originally from La Habra, which is a little bit closer to where we're at. But then, you know, my dad got a job promotion. And so we moved out there, you know, and it was great growing up. You know, I can't complain about, you know, there were some rougher parts around it, but where I was living was fine. Mom and dad in the house. I had great parents. Cool. So it's not quote unquote the typical, you know, fighter thing. The world, you know the world.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's always crazy, and that's one of the things kind of started with the podcast, right? You know, I deal with a lot of guys like you, Danny, you know, and I know the guys from a more of a personal stance. Sure. And so like I see what they go through with having families, you know, navigating life, navigating jobs, navigating, you know, all of these things. And, you know, you look on Twitter, you look on these things and they look at fighters as, you know, they're this toy that you play with or whatever. Oh, yada, yada, yada. They don't see the personal thing. And so that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring awareness to is kind of knowing that these guys, beyond just great fighters and athletes, are human beings and they have stuff going on with their lives, no doubt, kind of as well, and learning from them.
Even touching on that too, it's cool seeing, like you said, it's not the average fighter, but even just seeing like what gives you that edge, you know, in life. There's always something I feel like that you get attached to early on in life. So like, doesn't matter where you come from, right? You still ended up in this position, and so that's kind of what we've wanted to really like focus on, is like not just worrying about the fighting lifestyle, because that's cool and all, everyone glamorizes that, but what really goes on in your life day to day. Because we don't see that, you know, like what's really going on.
For sure. And like you said, the growing up thing where I didn't have maybe the like rough part, which made me fight, but you know, I had my dad, I had a great dad, but the bar for excellence was very high, and I was competitive at a young age. Did all the sports. But then 1st grade, I tried out wrestling, and then my dad never wrestled, and he didn't even know they had wrestling for kids. But he was like, whatever you want to do, like,
do it the best.
We're going to do it. And you know, people, and I'm not, you know, I know there's a bunch of great dads there, but I'm just going from my perspective, seeing my dad, and my dad recently passed. So I've always I've just put it in perspective. But, so I've been really I've really thought about the stuff. And then like when he would say, like, just as an example, because it was hard for me sometimes in school growing up, and it still is a little bit, but I have a tight crew of like fighters that I can get me. But relating to other kids, when it would be like the weekends, they'd go to parties or T-ball or what, you know, fun kid stuff. And then there'd be a good group of kids up in Selma, California, and they're like the top kids in the country. And then we wrestled at a tournament, and then both our dads are crazy, and they're like, hey, what's your number? We should come train together, kind of thing. Like, and so it'd be like, we'd go, and then on a Saturday, we'd wake up. It was 3 hours to get to Selma from Highland. And so we drive up 3 hours for a 2-hour practice. I did good at practice. We get Carl's Jr. as a reward, little $6 burger. Good job, son. And then we drive 3 hours back. And then people were like, you did what for practice? And my dad's like, yeah, we drove to Selma. And they're like, for practice? And he's like, yeah, that's what he says he wants to be the best, that's what it takes. And it was just like matter of fact. And I remember being a kid seeing it. And because that's what I knew, I was like, okay, that's what it takes. You want to go with the best guys, you're going to have to miss a party to go work out with these guys.
Instilling that in you without
100%. And not telling me, showing me. So that's where I really, when I just compare myself around fighters, and, you know, I want to know their background stuff so we could see what's similar, what's different. So like I didn't have like you know, I got into fights and stuff as a kid, but it wasn't like, I wasn't gang infested. You know, I didn't have that. So mom and dad, you know, both had jobs, both educated. So, but like the bar for whatever you say you're going to do,
fucking own it. Yeah.
You own it. And you don't say, my dad he was old school in terms of like, you don't just say stuff and then not do it. So even now I have a little bit of a hard time MMA, like projecting a little bit more. I'm getting better at it, but because I was like, the way I grew up, if you say something, there's no turning back on what you say you're going to do.
Your dad, that's why he's laughing. That I'm very old school in that. And I do the same thing with my kids.
For sure.
Exact same thing. Hey, if I tell you something, if I say I'm going to run through this wall, two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to run through that wall or I'm going to die trying to run through that wall because that's just, man, and maybe it's my Southern roots or maybe it's just some of us are built different that, your word is your bond.
100%.
And like that.
My dad was very much so that word is your bond. So you don't know all this, but not backing it up, didn't fly in the house. So I just grew up a little bit. That's where the edge you were talking about.
Right.
Because it was serious and it was very competitive. And, he was loving and everything too. Don't get me twisted. Like he was a psycho, but it was very competitive and like, okay, you say you want to do something. And he would just tell me as a kid, like I'm in second grade hearing this and be like, I'm around other people and they're talking about like, how did the Angels do? Yeah. And what's the Dodgers game? And then he'd be like, you say you want to do something, your goal, he's like, you either do it or you don't. There's no in between and you do your best. And if you truly do your best, you will do it. But don't say you want it and then not back it up. And so I was like, just hearing different stuff as a kid. So I just remember like growing up, it was awesome. I had a good childhood, both parents loving. But the kid stuff, I always had a hard time relating to my peers in school a little bit. And wrestling is a little different sport. Like it's not
the prototypical
training hard. Like we're training in the garage. I remember my dad got the garage set up. We had mats, we had dummies. We'd bring people in. And I remember like kids in the neighborhood. My dad would, because we lived in Highland, which is out inland, so it would cook in the summer. So my dad would have
we didn't have to worry about
we didn't have ocean breeze. We did not have the ocean breeze for sure. That's why I'm always out here at the beach taking advantage. Miss time. But so we go out there and then we'd have it like the garage cranked like halfway. And then, I literally remember me doing either by myself working out or we'd have someone in there and the kids from the neighborhood would just sit and like lay on the ground and just watch.
Yeah.
And be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you guys beating it? Why are you, what do you, they were mesmerized. And I'd be like, this is what I do. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm 9. This is what we do.
But to see that come to fruition, honestly, and seeing the pride in you talking about your dad, that's like something that I hope, like I went through a lot of toxicity, very violent, abusive. So that it wasn't necessarily
kind of like when you're teaching TJ how to grow up too. So it's like, again, I know there's some instances like when you're telling him how to actually train for football, when you had him like going around in circles, traiing like a little bit harder, right?
I grew up in a very violent, abusive, like prison house. Like my dad has been to jail. My uncle was a career like prisoner, like all of these things. So I grew up like that. So one of the things for me is I had to learn to cut that toxicity. And that's one of the things, hearing that pride in you of talking about your father is one of the things that pushes me daily to be and do better. Even I did a post yesterday and I said, even when I don't want to sometimes, like I just feel like the world is like on my back and when I see them or when I talk to them, I think to myself that like when I'm gone, I want my kids to speak my name and to see that.
Hey, they will.
To see that is like, that's super moving. And I wish, RP, I wish I would have met your dad because that's super powerful. Sure. And I know we talked about one day you having kids, knowing that you're going to transfer that to your kids is super kind of cool to hear.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, my dad was an awesome dude. And even at his funeral memorial, and then even afterwards, I went to some, one of my buddies had a birthday party. And so I went to it, and this was a couple weeks ago. And then some old high school wrestling coaches were at the party because he coaches football now. So they brought him by. And then some of the coaches literally who I haven't seen in years since high school were like, dude, we heard about your dad. And they had story, like everyone had a story because he was principled. Like that was one thing you would say, like he was, if you're right, you stick to it. And if you're wrong, you man up in a like there was no.
Was he in the military?
No, wasn't in the military.
The way he was raised.
That's just the way he was. My grandpa was, Navy, and then worked for NASA. He's a pro, like the crazy family story coming to America from the Philippines. And they were about business, but But he was a principal guy. And then even people coming up to me at this party like, dude, stories I didn't know. Like, you were in 8th grade and your dad came by and asked, and he was like, and then these people tell me like, dude, your dad motivated me to, like, when I was thinking about lacking with my kid, like, no, remember what Perry did, like, for Chris?
That's
so hearing that after, and I told my mom, I saw her later, I'm like, yeah, like Coach Anderson was saying really good stuff about dad and stuff I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So that stuff echoes out, So you stick with it,
Yeah,
that's why I not appreciate it when they're young.
They never. We never do when we're younger. Like, think about how many people told you, like,
your dad's crazy. Why are you doing that? I'm like, I know.
Yeah, or like they tell you, oh, you slow down. You're trying to grow up too fast. You're like, no, I want to get my driver's license and go get a job.
For sure.
And then it's like you start getting bills and you're like, I wish I could rewind back and go back to not paying bills.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you on that.
I know you were a wrestler at Redlands, East Valley, and Old Dominion. When did you start? You kind of answered what I was going to ask about starting in 1st grade, but when did you actually start from that? When did you say, hey, I want to start MMA training and kind of going from there?
Yeah, so I started wrestling in 1st grade, but it was more just like me trying something. I want to try this. And my dad was like, all right, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
If you want to try.
Yeah.
And like I said, he was so good at where he just put me around the right. He had a skill at doing that where he put me around the right people. He'd find like coaches I end up getting like joke about it with me now. Like, dude, your dad, like now that I coach kids and I do privates and stuff, I'm like, oh man, my dad, if he would have done it, like he heard there was a good guy in our area who wrestled D1 and he would like talk to him, get the number, call relentlessly, like hit him up. And finally they would just break and be like, okay, we'll coach this guy's kid.
Just leave me alone.
Yeah, just leave me alone. And then they ended up being coaches. But so we took me to a wrestling camp because he was like, okay, if you want to do this, and even he told me this before he passed, but he was saying, he's like, I noticed when I took you to the club, like all the good kids, their dads were all coaches. And I wasn't a coach, but I don't want that to hold you back.
Yeah.
So he was so good about like finding, okay, where is these guys? There was a camp called the Granby School of Wrestling.
Yeah.
So they had a camp in Huntington Beach at a Golden West College, and they used to have a program. So they would do that. My dad's like, let's try this out. Like, I'll learn, you'll learn, get better at this. And then when I was at the camp, this is when Tito was like the champ.
Yeah.
And I was in 1st or 2nd grade, 2nd or 3rd. And I remember at a lunch break, Tito came in to promote a fight or do something, some sort of promotion. And I remember being like, 8 or 9 and sitting there. And then Tito walked in. And when you're a little kid and, Tito's a big, he came in, the bleach hair, the belt. And then they rolled out, literally out of a movie, they rolled out a VHS thing. And then he put on like his tape and showed what he did. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like the first time I actually seen UFC.
Yeah.
And him just like pounding people. And I'm like, and he's like a larger than life dude. And then he was like,
a superhero.
Yeah, dude. And I not even know. I'm like watching. I'm mind blown that this is a thing. And then he's like, yeah, wrestling helped me. Like wrestling led me to this. And I'm like, wait, doing these Granby rolls at camp like led you to do that? And I was like, and I was in Taekwondo and stuff, so I did some martial arts.
Yeah.
And I was like, we don't do this. Like, boom, round and pound. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wait, if I can do this, that means I can do that. And I remember like that seed was planted young. And then I was like, okay. And there was always, and then I was obsessed, like what you said about your son earlier before we started recording about he's like 6 or 7. And he's like always watch. I was that kid 100. Anything I get my hands on, this is pre-internet.
Yeah.
But if I could find a VHS or a DVD on MMA or training or some Russian wrestler, I would watch it 1,000 times. Dude, I could
the tape pop.
100%.
That VHS.
No,
I don't
rewatch and rewatch. And so my dad got me for my birthday some like UFC hits DVDs, and we go on road trips to tournaments to Idaho, to Montana. And I would put 2 DVD. And probably looking back, I would be so annoyed if I'm driving and I'm hearing the same commentary all the way to Montana. But I would watch these tapes, and I remember like, and then I'm watching guys, and they would talk on commentary like this guy. Mark Coleman was a wrestler. Don Frye was a wrestler. And I'm like, okay, like these guys did the same thing I did and they're doing this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So that seed was in my head young. And I remember saying when I'm done with wrestling, like when I'm like, okay, the wrestling thing, I did my thing, it's over. I'm like, I need to give this a try just for my soul. 100%. Like nothing more, nothing. Maybe a little bit when I started for the camera stuff, like maybe because I was young.
Yeah.
But the more I've done it, I'm like, oh, that stuff is, that's
whatever. If you don't have
why it has to be.
Oh, if you don't have the passion or love for it, that's why I look at people, like I tell him the difference, because I deal with a lot of guys in the UFC and kind of other promotions as well. And I can tell the difference between there's guys that are fighting to be the best and be champions. And then you have some guys that are just there because they want to to be cool or to get a check.
Yeah.
That's and you can tell the difference, and eventually those guys end up fizzling out because if you're not there for the love of it, like, you know, you're not gonna.
Hard. It's too hard to do.
People don't realize though, like, you know, the hardness of it, the weight cuts, the, you know,
the mental toll.
Well, you have to constantly eat, like your diet has to constantly be on. So it can't be like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go out YOLO and eat whatever for like weeks at a time.
You just can't live a normal life. Like, quote unquote normal.
You
like,
you cannot.
What's the weekend looking like? What are we going out with the boy? It's like, if you want to take this serious and be good, you're going to have to eliminate.
Yeah.
You know?
So much training you have to do. Like,
that's like, the training and the diet, that's like, boom, baseline, like even dudes who or whatever, like, but then it's like the things, the distraction stuff, like, damn, I do want to, but you can't do it. And I try to perceive that. It's just how I view things as like, that's like the little universe test. Like, how bad do you want,
one
for me?
No, it is.
Yeah.
You're hitting the nail on the head, but a lot of people don't necessarily look at it that way. You can tell, like, certain people are built certain ways. Like having a conversation with you, having a conversation with Danny, having a conversation with Hoffa, like the Neiman. All of these guys, you can tell the mindset is just different. They're built, you guys are built different, and that's why, you know, you've been around a substantial amount of time and will be, you know, around.
Did your time at ODU really help transition you to prepare mentally to get into this MMA realm?
Sure.
Like, obviously
the ODU, bro, 100. The ODU thing for people in the wrestling world. Well, my coach was. I've just been around a lot of crazy men my whole life, but they've led me, you know, like that ODU thing, just wrestling Division I at that level, what I thought I was ready for. And I was like a good high school, I was state champ and nationally ranked, but the Division I level, it's like a whole nother league of intensity,
right?
What the bar is, the life you live. Like it was, if you'd have told me what I really would have had to sign up for, I probably would have been like, I'm good. I didn't know. Like, no, for real. I'm serious. And then others around me too, because it was one of those things where it was the most, to this day, the intense one. Yeah. It was hard. Yeah. And I'm glad I did it, and I did very well, and I surpassed what people thought I would do, so I'm all proud of that career, but I wouldn't go back to doing stuff. I mean, I miss certain things about the camaraderie with the guys and like the teammate stuff, all that. I love all that. And even today, my closest friends were guys from college where you cut weight, you travel with, and you go out with, you know, those are my boys.
Yeah.
But
how was it transitioning though? From here, like we talked about it being in Virginia, how was it transitioning from being from here to Virginia?
Dude, that took a little bit too. Sure.
I was gonna say culture shock.
100%.
Yeah.
But I remember, okay, so my college coach, his name's Steve Martin, he wrestled for Dan Gable. So he's right from he's right from the Dan Gable lineage. And anyone who knows him, he's crazy, but he is passionate and he means well. And if you're his guy, he'll ride it to the death with you. Like, so it's like, okay, he's crazy. He's going to demand a lot, which some people are like, dude, I can't handle it. Yeah. But if you get past that with him, like you show him, you'll do what he asks, he'll ride with you till it's over. Yeah, so that for me was like attractive, where I was like, okay, like this dude is nuts, and like he's going to call you late night and he's expect you, and he's going to have 1,000 things he wants you to do, and he's going to, when you win or lose, it's not going to be like hugs. It's like, why didn't you do? It's a lot, but there was times when I needed someone to have my back, and he had my back to the end. But so I went out there for him, and I remember on my recruiting trip, you know, because you get recruited to a bunch of schools, ASU, Cal Poly, like, and in my head I was like, I'm going to ASU, like, you know, because I was 17, 18, and they were good at the time, and then a little bit of me. Looking back, maybe like ASU.
Yeah.
It's party school.
Yeah. A little bit, if I'm being honest, now that I'm older, you know, if I'm being honest with myself. Like I was 18, you know, go to ASU and there's like it's pool parties and beautiful women. And
all the time.
When you're 18 years old, that's attractive. Yeah. You know, it's attractive now, but priorities. But I remember the coach told me on a recruiting trip, and it all goes back full circle. That camp I went to when I met Tito, that was my college coach's camp.
Oh, wow.
He was running that. And I was 9. So he knew me when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So he'd see me every summer, and then like he would do a thing where there's me and another kid who were really good, and we'd go to camp for free, but then we would just demo the whole time, and like we were kids and it made it look good, you know, like 10-year-olds hitting all the moves.
Yeah.
So he knew me, where other coaches were recruiting, it was almost like a car sales kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he was like,
well, you had that comfortability.
Of course. Yeah. You have it real.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I'm like, okay. But I remember he told me something where he was like, because even my mom was like, Virginia, like it's far, you know. And she, I'm the oldest son, and But I remember he said something. He was like, I promise this, like I will get you your degree and I will give you the best opportunity to win. He's like, and I guarantee you when you're done here, you'll be a man.
Yeah.
And for some reason, maybe at the age I was 18 and I was naturally rebellious. I like to be like independent, left alone. I'm just like that. So I was like, okay, to me, that appealed to me. So when he said that, I was like, okay, I do want to be
something different.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, wrestling and stuff is all cool, but that's going to end one day.
Yeah,
I want to be a man.
There's no pro league, so it's not anything besides that.
Like financial.
It's Olympic.
I want to be a man when I'm done. I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet in the world, and whatever I choose to do, be good or do my best at it, which is what you referred to as like, did that prep me for getting in the MMA world? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
More the physical stuff for sure, trained hard, but more of the
mental aspect.
100%.
You'll crumble without it. I mean,
of course, that's the base. And I mean, I'm not trying to say like I have it figured. I'm not even close, but I'm still working at it. But I always go back to some lessons I learned when I was wrestling in college at ODU about being a man and handling your business when sometimes you don't want to.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah, true.
But love Virginia, culture shock, a little bit slower way of life.
Did you have grits? Of
course I had grits.
Oh my God,
I love it down there.
Do you know what grits are?
I've been to this. My family's from the South, but
I forgot
I'm not
they're
a fan
from
of it.
North Alabama.
I'm half Latino and then half white. So my mom's side, he was in the military, went to Germany, went all across the globe, and then settled in Alabama. So I've
got a little southern, slower twang to you too. That makes sense.
I've been for a couple. So he's born and raised in Florida and Georgia and all that stuff. So I hear it and I pick it up, but grits I can't do.
Really?
I'm not a huge fan of it.
Did you try it with butter or sugar?
With butter. I liked it. It was all right.
In there too.
Some country fried steak though. That biscuits and gravy. I can do that for sure. And sausage balls. We got to make that again.
I make fire sausage balls, by the way.
I know we haven't done it.
I know, right? It's crazy when people ask me about things that they're like, "Oh, do you miss?" And I'm like, "So I'm from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
So it's super." Ghetto now. I mean, especially not like the crime is very Walt Harris, who fought in the UFC. His daughter, who was murdered. Yeah. That was actually in my hometown of Montgomery, Alabama, where that all happened. Shout out Walt Harris, R.I.P. Anaya, but that all happened there. So it's like that. So people are like, "Oh, would you ever move back?" And I'm like, not an absolute chance, just because I don't want to deal with, especially with having younger kids, I don't want to have the crime aspect, but man, the food. If I could transport the food over here, that would be all good. So speaking of you, when you transferred from ODU to MMA, what was your family's reaction? What did they?
Well, it's one of those things where, like I said, I verbalized it early. While I was like, I'm going to do this when I'm done wrestling. 100%. Yeah. It's funny, even my mom will say, because people always ask, like, my dad was more like, all right, like, we talked about, you're going to do it.
Your dad's down to ride.
You're going to do it, then okay, do it the right way. Yeah. Like, that's how he was.
Yeah.
Or, the mom thing, people always like, so what do you think to the mom?
Yeah.
But even if you ask my mom now, she'll say, like, since I was a kid, if I say I'm going to do something, like, you can't. She's like, if you try to pull Chris off track, like, I'm gonna push back even harder. She's like, there's no point of even being like, because then I'm just gonna go all in.
Yeah.
She was like, all right, well, I love you and do your best. Like,
has she ever been to any of your fights?
Yeah.
It's funny talking to fighters because some people's moms are like, I can't do it. And then some people's moms are like, I'm down to ride.
Well, I don't think she's watching. Like, I've heard she's like this. She went to my, not 2 fights ago, before this last one, 2 before that in Arizona. And then I asked my brother, I'm like, was mom? And she was like this.
Yeah.
Head down, and the crowd was going crazy. It was a tough fight. Like, I mean, I dominated, but it was like, there was some back and forth stuff. And she was like, when I just hear the other people getting cheered, I'm like, oh no, come on. It's auditory. But yeah, no, they're supportive. The family's supportive. I've been, like I said, I try to tell people, like, I've been blessed where I didn't have the negative, you can't do that. Like, I didn't have that. They were always,
that's cool.
Like, Chris, if you're, because, maybe it's been part nurturing, part nature, I don't know, or definitely both.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, if you're going to say you're going to do something, you go on and do it, and you persevere, and, when you don't want to do it, you don't do it. We trust you though.
Yeah.
To go and do your thing. So.
Well, it probably relieves a lot of pressure too, that way you don't like second guess, like, oh, is mom and dad looking, are they watching, like not a lot of kids have that in these types of sports, whether it's football, basketball, or MMA. Like, it probably helped a lot to just be like, cool, I can just do my thing.
100%. And I knew you know, I went through a lot, you know, wrestling in college, doing all that stuff, but I learned that I'm like, oh, because, you know, you go through as an athlete, and maybe I've had those reps from so young to where I'm like on a different stage than more people like with my record and age. And I don't know, but like, oh, they love me regardless. You know, a lot of people do it for like, you know, the validation and love of others. It feels good when people are telling you awesome. Like,
a lot of people are constantly seeking, like, I can.
Not sustainable though.
Yeah, it's never.
You're gonna leave that void, and
until you heal that void internally.
For sure.
Nothing. You're chasing a rabbit. I did.
100%, bro.
I've won world championships with IBJJF. I've won Pan Am championships, and until I actually, and it's something I kind of still struggle with because I had a lot of trauma as a kid, a lot of abuse as a kid. So nothing I ever did felt good enough. So like even training with like Furao and like the top guys in the industry, like they'd be like, oh, dude, you're really good. But in my mind, I'm like, for sure. Oh, they're just saying that because once I went through therapy, and it's funny because I didn't really actually start diving deep into therapy until I had a car wreck and I was unable to train. And it was at that time when you say sometimes the universe, God, put you in positions, and I think it was God's way of saying, hey, bro,
deal with that.
You got to handle this over here
for sure
before you can, you know, because I ended up looking back now, I used jiu-jitsu and I used training, I used all of that as a crutch and a way to divert from me healing all of these things. And so like you said, it was unsustainable. I was constantly chasing the carrot until I looked internally and healed, I couldn't. It was chasing.
100%, dude. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And like literally going through those exact things now with me and one of my striking coaches talking about it, like my why, and then like using fighting as a vessel, it's like the most challenging, maybe besides, you know, going to actual war with like killing is the goal, like second most thing in society that you can do, you know, where it's like, it will challenge you physically, no doubt. It'll challenge you mentally, no doubt. It will challenge you emotionally.
I was going to say
challenge you spiritually.
Yes.
If you do it for the right things. And so I've been trying just with the way where I'm at in my journey now, like, okay, the little things that maybe before when I would have been like, why is it, you know, why is this happening? Why is this not happening to other? It's like, no, dude, use that. Like, this is challenging me in an emotional way. Yeah. Because it's not how I want it to be. Mm-hmm. And am I going to use that as a crutch or as like, am I just gonna out-exercise it? Like, no, dude.
It's you know, want to know what it is? It's like you said earlier, it's the universe's way of challenging you. God, sure. I'm a firm believer in God has a reason and a season for us all. And if you look at all of the great ones, the absolute great ones, I've hung out with Mike Tyson, I've hung out with some legendary, Rafael dos Anjos, legendary people. They've gone through all of the trials and tribulations before it came to fruition. And
that's the test.
That's the 100%.
So I just try to see, you know, or at least, excuse me, like put that when I'm going through things or I'm not feeling good, or I'm not having good practices or body stuff, other side stuff. Chris, okay, this is what you want. This is what you say you want. Like, you're not be able to handle these kind of things to be at that. And I go, okay, you know, handle it, deal with it, figure it out. So that's how I just kind of reframe in my head, you know, to help me go on the path and kind of my mental little.
So I know you're a teacher, a coach at Mount Sac, and a pro MMA fighter, which is insane. How do you manage a pro career, grading papers, and everything in between?
Well, it's more like the classes at Mount Sac. They're like
BJJ.
Yeah. I'm teaching what I already do, right? So it's not it's already my wheelhouse kind of thing. But it is. I'm super grateful for the school, and then, you know, I coach there as well, where my schedule's set up to where I train in the morning, and then boom, I get done with training. You ask the guys, I'm in the car, boom, heading up to Mount Sac to teach, and then I coach practice right after. I get done coaching practice. I'm back in the car, boom, coming back down to Orange County and getting it in. And then, you know, like I'm on the road a lot. I'm driving a lot, but like in my head, like we talked about, reframing it to where it benefits you. And I've used it, like I tell one of my striking coach, I'm like, dude, I use that time on the freeway. This is just so I'm probably stay sane too.
Yeah.
But I'll use it as like my own little therapy sessions.
Recalibrate.
Like, dude, no music. and just drive. And then anything I've been avoiding or anything that's been bothering me, no music, no podcast, don't distract yourself. Like go through it. And I use, for me, I'm just speaking personally, it's helped me. I'm not recommending anyone else. I'm not giving advice.
It's so weird. 100%. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I cut everything
the
off.
freeway's the best therapist.
I cut everything off between taking kids to school, between like, cause you know, I have to go get one kid over here, back to get this kid, back to do this. And like throughout the day, like I do real estate. So I'm in LA, Santa Clarita, like we go there. Property. And so I shut down radio and I shut down everything. And during that time, I kind of play through things in my head and recalibrate my body so that like when I get to the next spot, I'm like, okay, I feel like I can purge that emotion and kind of, I've ran through it and now I can release it and kind of let go so that I can move into what I need to do the next.
Dude, so that's why I use that in my head, because people like that I train with or coaches are like, dude, you drive like you're driving. I'm like, I know I am. I'm like, but if I am going to be on the road, I like to use it as like a, go through your own thing. But
it's like shower thoughts, you know,
100%
mindlessly doing
for
something.
Sure. I'm just kind of, I'm aware of the lanes and I'm just like going like, okay, you need to address that. Or, hey, make sure you talk to this person. You guys have been avoiding each other. Like just going through all that stuff. So I use it as a way. The drive for me is like honestly therapeutic. But like you said about the coaching and teaching, two huge benefits for me, because I know I do have a busy schedule, but I try to, let's use them to where it can benefit me. But with the teaching, because I teach classes, martial arts classes, fitness classes, and it's good for me to be around. These are just like normal people just doing like with normal jobs and going to class, and they just want to do these exercise things. And so it's good for me because when I'm not doing that, you know, I'm surrounded by like elite high level fighters. Which is awesome because I need to be in that mind state with sharks. Because it keeps you sharp and that's what you need to be successful. But then also it like is the other side of the coin where you're like, okay, but how do you relate that to someone who doesn't know what a guard is and how to pass a guard? Like who doesn't watch UFC, who doesn't want to be a world champion? You got to know how to relate to those people. And it helps me as a coach and as a human. When I'm out, I'm like, okay, not everyone's coming from the same mindset as me. Like I've been since I was a kid. Like I want to be the best.
That's almost therapeutic in a way.
Dude, it's great. And then on the coaching on top of that, so they're a little bit more like goal oriented. They're athletes. And I tell these kids straight up this. I'm like, you guys hold me so accountable to myself, because if I'm coaching you and I'm like the kid's struggling in practice or he's not having a good day, and I'm like telling him in his ear like, hey man, like these are the days right now are when you actually got to push through, when you're the nail and not the hammer. Like you got to learn how to fix your face, fix your body language, go back out there and do your thing, whether it goes your way or not. And then just like today, I was sparring before this and I wasn't my day, you know? So it was a rough one for me. And then I'm like, okay, if you're going to tell those kids that, you better hold the bar to yourself, dude. So I'm always in my head going, it's beneficial for me because it keeps me accountable. And in line where I'm like, you can't be telling a 19-year-old that, then you not do it, dude. Like you better do the same thing you're preaching.
You lead the next generation of men too.
For sure.
Or men and women. I mean, you're doing both. But so like, what is your favorite part about coaching then? Like when you do this, like
you said,
guiding all these people
for sure.
The next thing.
Yeah, because like these kids are young, and then where I'm at right now, it's a junior college, so it's not like I coached Division I for a few years and at ODU, and so it's like a lot of the kids where I see them, like I said, like you heard my background, my dad and everything, like put me around high level guys. I've had Olympic medalists as coaches, like elite people. He's like, all right, I'm gonna put you around good guys. Some of those kids didn't have that. They wanted it. They trained hard. They were just at the high school doing it. And the coach was just a guy who, you know,
didn't know.
Tried his best, but didn't know. And so a lot of the kids I bond with, like I'm still like, hey, I don't care if it's at a junior, like the bar is here. Like, or let's not waste each other's time. Just don't even do it. And so I've connected with a lot of kids who are like, oh, I've never had a real coach before. Like I'll commit. If you commit to me, like I got you. It's a two-way street. If I ask something to you and you're like, nah, then all good, but it's not going to be full commitment. It's not going to be 100%. But there's been some kids who are like, you mean guys who help me get ready for my fights. Like they like it. They want to train with me. And then I'm like, I got you. Trust me. Like weight cut stuff, late night. I'm in the gym with them and helping them. And they're like, I've never had a coach like that in my life who's like, but I feel like I owe it to them because I've had great coaches. I've had a great father. I've had great mentors, men in my life where I'm like, how does a man act in this situation? I'm like, this is the easy route, but this is the right route, dude. And you got to do it and it'll pay off in the long run. So they hold me to that standard. That's what I'm saying. Like selfishly, I enjoy coaching, but it also holds me in my life where you're like, hey dude, they're watching you. Like they might not be watching you, but they're watching you.
And I think honestly, just knowing you already, I think it's because you hold yourself so accountable. You can tell, like, you radiate. It's crazy because we had Danny on here.
Yeah.
You both radiate this like intense positive energy with your vibes. Like you can.
I love Danny. I love Danny.
You can tell, like, I don't know if these guys know, but to be able to have a positive male figure in their life, to be able to pass down those things, you can't, there's no amount of money or anything that you could trade that for. It's like immense. So,
I mean, I'm just trying to do that, like what you said about the coaching. That feels good. Those are like the real trophies where, like, yeah, you can have the awards and I have the little coach award.
Well, you don't know what I mean, you get to know them over time, but at first you don't know what they go through. So it's
for
like,
sure. And you get to know a kid. And like I was saying, like, when they open up to you and I'm like, oh, damn, I was just like your coach at the JUCO. But then I mean way more in their life than I knew. I was like, I'm just trying to practice for you, dude. I'm gonna help you get better at wrestling.
Yeah. Well, show you. So you're talking about your father's funeral, like the coaches that you haven't seen in years and the family members and stuff like that. Everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
They see it.
For sure.
So like you probably are changing people's lives day in, day out because they're like, okay, Chris is going through this. He's a MMA fighter. He's doing the weight cuts. He's doing it with me. You're almost like building this brotherhood and this like mentor figure, like out of thin air.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I'm just trying to do my best. I'm not saying I have it figured.
I know, but
still, not trying to give the lessons I have. Like, hey, I know this works. I know what I know, but what I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, so, but sometimes we don't. So with that though, sometimes we don't take credit, but I can tell the passion and the way that you're translating. I could only see the amount of people's lives that you change, and that to me, honestly, like I said, I don't look at people. I've hung out with fighters, like I've done. I don't even, to be honest, I don't even look at people as like, oh, he's a really great fighter. Oh, he's this or he's that. And even I run a management company, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that I ask about a fighter when I see he's 8-0, 9-0, to me, that doesn't really matter. 4-0, 5-0, it doesn't. I need to know him as a person. So like, I actually have a phone call. Sometimes there's a language barrier, but I get a translator because I need to know what your intentions or what you're trying to put out into the universe.
For sure.
Because to me, I would rather take on the guy that's 1 in 10 that's going to come in there and try to fight and be better each day. And we can work with him on getting better and getting to whatever elite level it is that it might be UFC, might not ever be the UFC.
Yeah.
But I would rather work with that guy than the guy that's, 6-0. That's just not a good person. I meet people in this industry out. There's a lot of guys that are just not good individuals. They endorse negative energy. They endorse negative things for either financial gain or for their own egocentric gain. And to me, I've dealt with way too much throughout my life that I'm like, bro, you can't put any amount of money on negative energy. You can have it.
Yeah. It's not worth the whatever cash you'll get for it.
Not for me. I would, no, not at all.
It's like the one quote, and I use it a lot with my athletes, and then I've said it, to a lot of them, but I don't know. You can look it up on Google, but one of the Greek philosophers, I forget which one, but character is destiny. I love that quote because 100%. It's like your character, who you really are will determine, like someone might have the advantage of you as a young kid. They might have had it handed. They might have had whatever advantage put in a spot, whatever. Like they might flash right now, but like in the long term, the game of life, the real game, this, the whole thing, not a little 15 years of your life when you're an athlete. It's a blip.
Yeah.
And it's going to be over and you can't do it forever. You can't do anything forever, which is how it's set up.
Yeah.
So it's really that internal that's going to determine, in my opinion, how it's going to end up playing out
100%.
When you're at the end of the life. So
100%.
That's why I always like the character thing. Like, I want to know who you are. And I could work with you. Like you said, as a coach, you might not have had talent or good coaching, but if I know in here, it means well and it's pure and you're willing to do what it takes, I got you.
Yeah, it translated for me into my life. And that's why I keep such a small circle, because if you don't mean to put out good into the universe, again, same thing, dude. Like I can't do it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that.
So do any of your students come to your fights? I know they help out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Does it put any pressure on you?
No, I mean, maybe there might be a thing, like maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, I've been like I said, the mental reps of like why I do what I do to where the pressure can be alleviated and I can perform well.
Yeah.
But it is cool. They like it.
Yeah.
The coach is a fighter, like,
yeah.
And I go with them, and I'm an active coach. I'm on the mat with them. Like my college coach who was in his 50s when he was coaching me in college, or late 40s, 50s, was on the mat at every workout, didn't miss one workout the 5 years I was there. So I'm like, that's what I saw as a coach.
Yeah.
So I'm like on the mat if I'm not on the mat, like grabbing someone, I'm running the thing, making sure I'm active. So, we have a tight bond where I'm not like the dude who's hanging out just yelling and then dips out. Like I'm like with them, sweating with them, training with them. I go on morning runs down at the beach, or I train, and there's a few of them where I'm like, hey, Newport, 10 a.m., we're going to hit this run and we're going to scrap a little bit. And they're there.
Yeah.
And they love it, which, because I would too at that age. Like, my coach was a fighter. I'd be like, let's do it. Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be with the big boys and see what's up. So,
where you're going.
Yeah, they've been to my fights in Arizona. They've been to my fights in the desert. They've been, one of them I didn't like, because I lost. But I remember running in the back and then like seeing my guys, and they were kind of like, coach. And I just like dapped them up and ran in the back. But I was like, that's still cool to see that they were like, they just drove out to Arizona and they had school on Monday, but they're like, we don't care. We don't want to fight.
What's going on.
Yeah, I want to see what's up. So they got my. But like you said, it's a two-way thing. Like, I'm there for them for sure, like helping them sweat, get better.
It's a brotherhood, yeah.
I'm just older. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's all that is. But we train together, we sweat together, so they're coming out to support me. So I think it's cool.
That's super. I mean, that's
I like it.
Dope. And it lets you know again that you're doing the right things, that they're coming to support you.
Yeah.
That they know that they feel like they're being supported, so they're trying to pay it back.
For sure.
In a sense. So that's
the boys are they come to the fights.
That's super dope.
For sure.
So I know you're coming off a big win last month with Cage Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Perrin jumping back into the cage May 25th. No lie, I'm going to have to go cop my ticket kind of after this. You got me super stoked. I'm coming for sure.
Right on.
But, how's the training camp going? How's everything
Training camp's been going well. You got to play it like I talked to Farrell about it, but we got to play it because he's like, dude, you just did like a long training camp and I was in great shape for my last fight against Perrin.
Yeah.
And then 6 weeks later or 7 weeks, like I was like, I've never done, do I ramp it back up and get back in? And he was like, no. Like, you're already in, your baseline shape is there. You need a week to recover, let the brain heal, let the body heal, and then kind of maintain some of that strength. And then like 4 weeks out, ramp it up again. So for me, that's new, where I'm like, when it's time, it's on and cracking and we're going, where I'm more of like, hey, pull the reins back and chill out.
Yeah.
So I need people to kind of regulate me a little bit.
And
that's
you couldn't ask for any. Your crew is, if you're out to ask, that's definitely who I would want to kind of lean
for sure
on. Yeah.
For sure. So they do a good job. So like I said, I just came from sparring right before this, so I had good sparring, and then that the bloodline crew, our little crew, Cub and Monty are the manager coaches. So, and me and Danny were going this morning, and there's 10 other guys in there who are just hitters. So we have a good crew to where you're always kept honest, which I like. If you think you're getting a little too big for your britches, there's a guy who might not be into you 100%. Yeah, you're gonna get here. So, which I love. I love it. It keeps you honest, keeps you focused, and and like I said, that energy brings people up. Everyone's pushing. You have to.
If you have low energy, you're fucked. Like during
you're getting your ass whipped,
especially at that level with and it's always funny to see guys because I've seen guys that are like, oh, my crew, and I'm like, bro, you're, I don't want to like be a negative, but I'm like, bro, your crew, like y'all are chiefing out, and no disrespect, but like y'all are chiefing out when y'all are supposed to be practicing, and like, what really they're not, 5-2 and 5-3, your whole crew, and they're sloppy and not really. So like, who you work with matters immensely, but there's a lot of guys that are scared, so I commend guys like you that step in, and Danny, like Cub and Dan and you and all of those, dude, that's killers. Like, that's 4 right off the bat. Diving into the other 10 would be that, but just you say, hey, you're gonna go spar with these 4 guys, bro, there's a lot of guys whose sphincters clench when you even mention going in there to catch that smoke. Like they're either
I might have got one or two tight sphincters.
You're gonna have guys that are gonna pull hammies.
Yeah.
Oh, my leg hurts. My knee's been sore. I don't know if I can come today. So I commend, that.
Can I say something about?
Yeah.
But so you are right. I know exactly what you mean because you just hear the names. You're like, damn, am I going to get work today? Or what's gonna happen? Cub does a good job of making sure he's on it. Like he'll literally verbally say it. Like you're going to get work. And like I went with Archuleta this morning. Like, but it's not. He'll get on it if he sees it getting up. Like the malicious part that comes with some gyms or crews, he's because he's 40 years old and he's been in the game in the UFC at the highest level for whatever 15, 20. I don't even know how a long ass time, decades.
Yeah.
So he knows that in the long run, if it's like we're gonna try to kill each other every day, that window's like this. You ain't making it to 40 in the UFC, no shot.
No.
Where if it's like we're gonna get better and we're gonna push and keep the pace high and intensity high, but maybe not trying to zap each other's lights out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're still gonna get tired and you might still get your ass whipped, but it's not gonna be with malicious, like I'm gonna hurt you.
It's not gonna be ego driven. And
Exactly.
That's what it most of the time. And I'll tell you who's really good about that too. Furel is good about that.
Yeah.
Anytime I've trained at headquarters for 5.5, 6 years, and there's people that always come in and we used to like not laugh in a negative connotation, but we'd be like, oh, this dude ain't gonna last. And I tell people like white belts, blue belts,
same
brown belt, and I tell people all the time, like, hey, when they train with me, I tell people all the time, I'm the most friendly, Southern nice guy you'll ever meet. But this is what I say all the time. I can go 0 to Chris Brown as quick as I need to be. And I tell people, I'm at a place and a point where I'm not ego driven anymore. And so like, I love to teach people. I love to pay it forward. I love to train. But you get guys that come in and they think that they signed up for a UFC class.
Yeah.
Or they think that they, are about that life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, okay, look, dude, this can go. And when I feel somebody I say, hey man, look, this can go one or two ways. This can go one or two ways. We can flow roll and I can kind of teach you some stuff as we go along. Or if you want to take it next level, we can get ratchet.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's going to be a bad day for you.
Well, dude, it's funny you say that because some people, though, because I mean, me and Cub have talked about it and other guys on the team.
Yeah.
Some guys don't even know better. Like where they're from, that's how you do it. You get it, it's on and cracking.
Yeah.
And if you knock his ass out in practice, like,
Yeah.
Some people, like there are people who are malicious who know better and then like shame on you.
Yeah.
But some guy, like the younger guys coming up who are like, oh, I got to make my name.
Yeah.
And I'm around, oh, they see Cub or they see Dan and Danny and Rafa. They don't know. They're like, okay, I'm around UFC guys. Like, and this other place I was at, you get rewarded, you get stripes for trying to kill your partners. Like, that's what we do.
See,
and then you got to grab them and be like, hey, dog, we're not.
Simmer down.
Yeah.
Simmer
but it's
down.
not personal. It's not like, hey, you don't, but some of them are like, you see them, when you tell some of them, they're like, oh, I didn't know. And it's like, it's all good.
Well, I do the same thing. Like I said, I do the same thing and I'll say that. And some guys are like, you can tell that for them, they're like, no, don't take it easy. I'm like, I'm not saying like I'm going to take it easy and I'm going to just let you rag on me because that won't happen. But with that being said, like
we're here to get better.
You can tell that, exactly. For me, I want to get better, and like I'm not trying to embarrass you in front of your girl over there. But like, if you want to go like that, it can go down whatever way you want it to go down. I mean, hey,
yeah. Girls watch.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I know.
I know everyone has their thing, like during fight week to get prepped, like I'm sure you're not taking it, going 100%, get into it. Is there like a ritual that you like to do to get prepared either day of or week of the fight?
Yeah, I'm kind of just my style of how I like to be. I'm more of the like isolate and like put the phone away kind of thing and then be around my people, like people who have been with me in camp. Not like a bunch of people, it's not going to be my dig. I like it more, and it's just how my mind works, I guess. I don't know, but I like it more like we're going out for real, like to do this. I want my hitters with me. I don't want any extra weight that you're not really about.
Besides the hair, bro, we got a lot of like. I'm the isolate. Like when I go out, I don't
want to war, and it's not war, but it is.
Yeah,
that's the energy I like, where it's like my 4 or 5 people who have been around me all camp who know what I need. And maybe like technical people like coaches, and then maybe guys who are just like my brother or someone who I'm tight with, who was like
positive energy. That
exactly.
You like they say the right. I always say the people that say the right things when you need to hear it.
For sure. I'm cutting weight. I'm sucked up. I'm dying. And they know how to. Exactly. It's not. They're not just saying BS where I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like, because I'm down 30 pounds of water. Like they know what I need, and they know if I snap at them, it's not personal. I'm dehydrated. Like, so I like for me personally, the smaller, tight. Like we're a little crew when we're going out there to freaking butcher people. That's what my vibe. That's what I like.
Yeah.
You know. I like to isolate more and kind of be blocked out from the world. Yeah. I don't go on Instagram. I don't even like people who know. You know, cousins, guys, girlfriends, like people know, like, okay, he's not gonna be on his phone. He's not texting me because
it's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
I'm like, bro, I'm in a mood and I'm in a vibe right now.
And I need to focus.
I've got to put the phone.
Yeah. And if you know me, if you know me, you know that's how I am. It's not personal.
Really? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the people that do take it personal don't need to be around it.
We're just like acquaintances.
Thank you. Exactly.
Which is fine, but
yeah,
the people who like I actually care about are like that's how Chris is.
Yeah.
Like my mom knows. Like Chris ain't gonna be on his phone.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be calling her. Like after the fight, I'll call my mom first person. Like, hey, I did good, or she watched. Hey, we're proud, whatever. Yeah. But when I'm leading up to it, I need to be kind of, for me, that's how I like to get mentally, where it's tunnel vision for sure. And that I was the same way when I wrestled in college. With both years I All-American, I gave my phone literally to one of my assistant coaches, and I was like, Coach Dixon, boom, here's my phone. I don't want to see it. I don't want to text, and I don't want anything to happen to get in my mind and set me off course from the task at hand. So that's my dig. Where it's some people like to be on the phone. They like talking to people. That keeps them light and feeling good. That's your thing.
No.
My thing is the opposite in that regard. So that's kind of how I like to be with just my soldiers around me. You know, like dudes who I know got my back, and
that's how I'm the same way. It's tunnel vision, and it's like I don't want like we can be like cordial after the fight, depending on how disrespectful you get. But respect is something big for me. So like, if you're disrespectful during, promotion and all of that stuff, like there's no being homies, like kind of after that or cool after that or whatever. It's like at that point, we can't really associate. So stylistically, how do you guys match up coming into the fight?
My next opponent, he's a southpaw striker, very strong, athletic dude. So it's going to be, stylistically, it's going to be a fun matchup because I'm ortho, he's southpaw, he throws leather, I throw leather. He looks physically strong. I'm stronger than I look. And I know he has some grappling background too, so it's going to be on a Kraken. Sure, stylistically.
Okay.
Should be a go.
I know, just like getting prepped and stuff like that. How do you think it's going to go? Like, obviously, you have this game plan going into it. Have you guys started... Like, what was your prediction? How do you think you're going to have to match up against him?
Just certain things technically. I'm not going to probably get too technical, but southpaw, he's open stance. He's southpaw. I'm ortho. Right. So you're going to have to get the lead hand battle. If he gets his outside angle on me, his punches are there. Mine are gone. So I'm going to have to use fakes to get him to plant, make him get heavy on his feet. Then once I fake him, get that angle on him where I can throw my heavy shots. And then if I catch him overcommitting, a body lock, and then kind of, try to smash him, get him up out of there. But... the dude's tough and he's game and he's strong as hell. So.
Yeah. Well, luckily for you kind of having an advantage. I've seen he trains with some killers too, but bro, you got, and this isn't, I'm the most brutally honest person. So if they weren't fire, I wouldn't even be like, oh, those guys are really good. But you got Cub, you got Dan. My personal favorite, maybe it's because of the Santa Ana bloodline and my kids, but Danny Silva, like you've got like a crew. Yeah, I love that guy. Like you've got.
He flew with me to Boston. He was in my corner for Boston. So
yeah.
Danny was right there.
I love that guy.
And I like Danny because he's a watchdog. He don't let nothing slide. Like even at the press conference, he's there. And he's like, watch. You just, if you know Danny, like,
I know.
He's a watch. Like nothing gets by him, and he's like, hey, you should have told that fool this. And I'm like, all right, you need that.
But that I like about him is being from Santa Ana, like the area that I'm from is similar to.
Sure.
So it's kind of like sometimes I play the bumbling Southern idiot, and I play like, I'm
playing war.
Oh yeah, and I'm constantly watching. And even when I talk a lot because I'm trying to see who's gonna say what.
Yeah.
And even though I'm talking and you're thinking this guy is running his mouth a lot, how does he even know? my mind is so advanced with that I'm constantly rotating, even when I'm talking, like who says what, who answers this way, who, it's like almost like the Terminator.
For sure.
Where he's got the computer inside his system, like it's constantly, okay, he's a fool, cut loose. This guy knows what he's talking about that life over here.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly kind of.
Before my last fight, we're going in the cage and the guy comes in the cage, right? And he's from Boston. He's a UFC vet. So it's everyone against me, which I actually love. I love that. I do that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love when I'm even in college, like Missouri was our like in conference rival, and we had to go to Missouri, and they had this heckling club on campus where they had a club for students.
Their wrestling program at Missouri is
legit. Yeah. They'd always whip our ass, but I would win, so I would be like, and they would be booing, but they couldn't boo me. I was like, all right, at least I beat your team. But our team got an ass with, damn it. But we had some battles with them, but they had like, I loved that energy of when everyone's I like it more. It makes it more like, it sharpens you up. You're in enemy territory. You know you can't mess around. You can't be lax and caught slipping. Like at the press conference, I went in Boston and all his people were there at his bar with his thing. And I'm like, I like that energy. I love it when I know everyone here is against me. Yeah. Well, because it just keeps you tight. Like for me, my mental's like this. When I'm like, everyone here, potential enemy, can't slip up. I'm not with, it's not me and the crew. And
you can't get caught lacking.
You got to be on it. So. But Danny was there, and then when I was in the cage, he was like, Chris. And I kind of looked, and he's like eyes on him, like, watch this dude back and forth. And then I nodded at him, I'm like, I got you. And the dude walked in the cage, and we were doing the eye thing. And then the dude kind of looked away or whatever, like for a little bit, kind of did like this dude keeps staring at me thing. And then after the fight, my opponent, who was cool ass dude after we talked or whatever, and he was like, dude, you were holding eye contact like, too long. And then I told Danny, he's like, I told you to keep it on him. And I'm like, because it makes it, me and Danny were talking, like, it makes it a real thing. Like, is this like sparring, fun play, we're going to fight and let's have fun? Or is it like, no, dude, I'm going to try to like butcher you?
No, you can, and I had kind of a little bit of advantage because I came from such savagery.
A rough environment.
Like, I tell him all the time, I can look at people and sometimes I can tell when they're about that life or not. When I grapple with people, I can I can feel a certain breath from them, and I can know this guy, all I have to do is just act like I'm going for an arm bar. He's going to tap just because he does not want this smoke right now. And if it's even close to being there, I can tell already. So I'm just like, I'll just go for this. But I mean, I'm old school, so I like heavy pressure and whatever. I like to suck souls out. I'm with you. Kind of, that's kind of how I.
But yeah, just going on Danny. Yeah, Danny was in my last fight. He loves that, and that's why I like having that energy around too, because it's for real. Yeah. It's not fun and play and games like Danny. It's for real, and I'm for real. We have a different like just mental approaches because the backgrounds, we just have different lives, but the goal is the same. We just have different routes.
And it's honestly good. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example. Me and Albert are the same. I come from savagery, chaos, just like
dirty South, baby.
Just absolutely insane. Like, I'll tell him some of the stories. He's like, bro, how are you even? And I'm like I'm not wrapped too tight. I'm not wrapped too tight, but like, okay, I'm okay with that because you can only be wrapped so tight when you go through as much as I've gone through. And he had kind of a very, very good upbringing with his mom and dad, act kind of similar. So it's funny because I'm the Danny and he's kind of you in that sense of, but we play off of each other the same way. So it helps you come full circle with understanding kind of those things. Cause Danny talked about like being like, 5 and 6, 4, 5 and 6. And they would put them out in the yard and be like, y'all gonna bare knuckle fight today. For sure. So he knows those. Yeah, it's crazy.
But me and Danny, we have a good thing because, and he's helped me with my striking. He's a boxer and I've helped him with his wrestling stuff, I mean, he knows how to wrestle, but like little positions, I'm like, hey, you're missing this or whatever. And he's a great training partner because he wants to go hard, but he doesn't have a weird ego thing.
No.
So that's why, Danny's one of my guys. That's why I like him out. And he has a good energy where it's on and cracking and it's us against the world kind of thing, which
I love that.
I prefer that.
Yeah, me too.
Something like that. Yeah.
I'm always
being the bad guy a little bit. It kind of,
I'm curious. You mentioned one thing though, like you like the crowd being on you, but you don't talk. So are you kind of like Alex Pereira, just kind of going in there and then you kind of talk afterwards? Is that your style?
How gangster is Alex Pereira though?
Well,
that's I don't gangster, right?
Yeah.
That's
right?
I think that's way harder than. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. No. I love the entertainment. I understand it. I appreciate the promotion. Big fan of all those guys. But when you're really watching, like because there's a way to watch fights, right? You can watch them as a fan, like entertainment, like cheers. Or you can watch him as a competitor. You don't have to be a fighter, but if you're a competitor, like you compete, because you put yourself, you're like, okay, how would I react if I was that guy? How would I react if I was that guy? And if you see that, if you go like Yuri, I love Yuri too, and Pereira, both of them, like when they're standing in front of you and you know they're dead serious,
they're ready,
and they don't have to say a word. You can feel their energy, their body language. You know, Pereira's a giant, big old freaking skull, like the emoji,
hands, like
and then but Yuri too, like he's the samurai guy, but he has the beard and the crazy hair knot. But they're going to bring it and they're going to try to give you everything. And they do. Like, to me, and then even the one I always go back to, like when I'm warming up for fights or getting ready in the back, I always watch. And I love McGregor. Like what McGregor's done for the sport is insane. And, he's brought it to another level. But when him and Khabib fought, and there's that thing where they're at the press conference and McGregor's wearing that suit and he's probably, a little buzzed during his whiskey and he's like just chirping.
Snorted a line.
100% probably, I wasn't there, but that's what we've heard. But when he's there and him and Khabib are facing off and Khabib is just staring like, knowing like, dude, all this talking. And you can just see it. Like if you see it and you're a competitor, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where one guy's John, and I like that guy. I'm not saying I'm a Conor fan, but when Khabib's just looking at him chin up, going like, when behind all of this, we're going to get in the cage. And you're going to feel that wrath kind of thing. And the way he's staring at it, I love that stuff. I love the strong, silent type, the Clint Eastwood, old cowboy movie stuff. I've always been more attracted to, just personality-wise. Like, the guy who doesn't have to say much, but when they go 6-shoot, like, this guy's going to lay your ass down. You have to say a word.
Dude, I've always loved that. I met Pereira. We hung out with him in Austin.
I'm sure he's a cool guy.
Dude,
but he's about
nicest, friendliest guy.
For sure.
Absolutely, and I'll be honest with you, there are probably very few men or people in my life I was like, I would not want that smoke. I would have to stab or shoot him because I'm not going to try to fight him. There's just absolutely...
For sure.
Bro, I shook his hand, and I don't think people, because I had somebody talking about this last fight, they were like, oh, he didn't even hit him that hard. I don't think people realize. So when they call him Stone Hands, bro, let me tell you, I shook his hand and his hand.
Lunchbox.
Oh, bro, it is literally like a Whopper sound. Shout out Burger King. It is like a Whopper, bro. His hand is so massive. And it was like we were with Rafael Dos Santos and his family. We were eating at Terry Black. Shout out Terry Black's. And he was there and he came up and like we were talking and he was super excited to meet RDA because he's a legend. And so he was trying to smile, but it was almost like he couldn't, but it was like kind of forced. But he was the nicest. Like he was the nicest, friendliest. We were like, hey, can we take a picture? He was like, yeah, of course. Like he was the nicest, friendliest guy, but he radiates this energy like I will absolutely murk. It was like the silent kid in class that like chewed erasers or whatever, or just like ate bugs, and you were like, okay,
leave him alone.
Yeah,
what's going on?
I will absolutely not mess with this guy. That's exactly the energy kind of he radiates. So.
Yeah, but I've been, like you said, the talking thing. I've been getting better, like trying to get better at it, and it's
entertainment portion.
But just not saying anything I don't mean.
Right.
I'm like, okay, Chris, like. If you know me, if we're close as buddies, I like to talk. Like I'm a chirper. I appreciate funny stuff, and I just feel weird just doing it in front of people in a crowd I don't know because I feel like it's fake for me. So I've been getting better. Like my last fight, we did some promo stuff, and I said some stuff, but it wasn't anything I didn't believe. Like they asked me what I felt like hometown, like being in his hometown, like the guy was asking, and I said some stuff. I'm like, well, when you're a Viking, it's always more fun to go to someone else's place and raid and take their shit.
Yeah.
And that, I believe that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm a fucking Viking, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I did it, but I wasn't, at least in my heart, I don't believe I was trying to like, rah, look at me. I was like, no, I feel like that for real. Yeah. And I'm sucked out right now and I'm a little bit mean. So I do feel like that.
Upset.
I don't take your food.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so I've just been better at that. And it's part of the game. It is entertainment. So, but the talking thing, I'm getting better at that. But just, I've always been attracted to guys like the Pereiras or the, Yuris or the Khabibs where they're not, and even Khabib opened up later on, but just when him in that face off with Conor, when they're going and Conor's jawing and he's just staring at him dead in the eyes, like, all right, that ain't gonna, that ain't gonna do anything for you for real when it's on. So it's just guys who are about business. I like that.
Admired, that definitely.
All right. So what advice would you give yourself going back in time if you could do it all over again?
How old were you how back in time were you going?
We'll go like from transitioning, like going into your wrestling to your MMA. Is there anything that you'd want to know about yourself?
Yeah. Let's say, stay on the path and, keep doing what you're doing. It's going to be okay, but also maybe cut out some distractions.
Like what?
So I would say more just, and social life stuff outside of the train. I always train hard since I was a kid. I've been brought up to train hard. I'm a working dog. Like the training and stuff for that stuff is easy for me.
Yeah.
But like the social stuff and, it was the environment I was in. I was in my hometown, college town, and going out, having a few beers, like stuff like that, which there's nothing wrong with. That stuff's awesome. You go have fun. But maybe, cut some of that off a little bit earlier.
Gotcha.
Don't use it as a way to distract yourself from, knowing if you're on your path or not. I don't have to explain to you guys, but
exactly, yeah.
Just looking back, like, maybe nip some of that in the bud.
I guess just diving one more layer deeper. Do you think that's something to do with you going from like full structure mode in like Old Dominion and then not knowing what you
for sure
doing?
Probably.
Because that tends to happen like after like college,
for
like
sure.
Just in general for the average person,
100%. But to be fair to myself, there was probably, I got done. I went, probably like 16 year from, 7 to 23. So whatever, 15, 16 years ago that is. Yeah. Hard training. Like I probably did need a little break. Like
giving yourself grace and mercy right, is transitioning to trying to figure out what you want to do for a career and all of those things. I think because you had all of the other for so long, giving yourself grace and mercy, I think sometimes it's good to take a step back, step outside your comfort zone and see, is this really what I want to do? And I think once you did that, you were like, hey, this is what I want. So that your dad was in your ear with, if you're going to do it right. You got to do it right.
Right. So I went through that, but it was like I was saying, just the, I wouldn't want to change anything to maybe where I wouldn't be here right now with you guys.
Right.
Like I'm not, do this, regret that. I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
But just kind of like what we talked about earlier, like, hey buddy, this is all a test.
Yeah.
This is all part of your development. Nothing is forever. Nothing is, it's all change. And this is part of your test of your growth. But, just looking back, just being honest with myself, I needed a good 6 months. And then I go, okay, this is what I do. I miss this. This is what I'm about.
Yeah.
But then also, I was in a comfortable environment where I was at. Like I was, athlete of the year in my college and I had all these things and I was coaching and everyone knew me.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing the right thing when I came back out to California to be like, okay, pursue this at a professional level.
Yeah.
You're going to have to cut some of that big man on campus thing or whatever that is.
Yeah.
No, people knew me and I came back out here and I'm like, oh, there's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And I knew it in my heart. I just had to go and do it.
Yeah.
So it took me a couple years out there fighting amateur and stuff, being like, all right, you want to take the next step, dude? Put your big pants on and come back home and take the next step. So that's what I would say to myself. Like, hey, you trust in the process, you do it right. It's all a test. And then if I could just hindsight, maybe cut some of the social stuff. But I honestly, a little bit I needed, but then it maybe got to a point where like, okay, put that away. It's not helping you.
Yeah, exactly.
The fun,
the fun's good to have temporarily as you transition.
And now where I'm at in my life, I don't party, I don't go out anymore. Well, I like to go out sometimes socially, but I don't drink anymore and stuff. So, but the fun, and I remember I heard Bernard Hopkins talk about it because I was like, dude's 49 fighting at a world level. And he talked about, which I loved, he was like, people were like, oh, you just live this robot life. And he's like, no, I'm having fun. Training and going to fight. That's my fun.
Yeah.
That leaves me inside feeling like,
yeah.
And he's like, this is like me going out on a run at night. That's your red wine. That's like my red wine. That's your glass of wine at night. Mine is going out for a run, talking to myself, shadow boxing. And I really could relate to that because when I cut out all of that, like outside stuff, I was like, oh, this is what really makes me feel good. The other stuff's temporary. It makes you feel good temporarily.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Those people that say you're a robot don't know that they're robots in their own sense.
Yeah, I think it's like a misconception on discipline too. I feel like too much people think discipline is like regimented.
Yeah.
And that's To a degree, yeah. But I think also like when you actually do what you want to do and you're not succumb to like Lisa, the distraction.
Yeah.
That's when I know I'm doing what I want to do. And like, that's how I'm living my life. So like for you, it's a run. For me, it's like doing a sauna at night and relax.
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
Like that's what it is. And if I want to do that, just because you don't like to do that doesn't mean like it's robotic.
For sure.
It's like, I want to do this.
I'm just
potato.
Exactly.
I want to do this.
I'm just speaking from a point of people kind of around me being like, you want to go, you're going to do what? Right. And I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not even going to explain it. Yeah. You don't have to get it. But for me, when I get done doing this strength, I sparred before this morning. Yeah. It's my first hard one after my last fight. And it wasn't even my best day of sparring, but I was like, oh, that's what I needed. Yeah. That's what I needed. Deep sweat, tired. I'm like, damn, how can I not take this dude down? Yeah. When I got done, we're all sitting there and I'm like tired as hell, sweaty in the sauna. And I'm like, woosah. That's what I needed. And I feel better. I got to come here and talk with you guys. So that's kind of where, advice would be like, trust in the universe. It's all a test, but also maybe some social stuff, cut that out. And once I've cut that out, like my fun I get now, it's what I do every day anyways. Yeah. So I'm, it's all good. It's all good.
So we've been doing this new thing where we like to do rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And so
all right.
Like he's like,
it's just fun little questions I like to do, and it's about like just fighting in general.
Okay.
So whatever is like the first fighter that comes to your mind.
Okay. All right.
So the first one is, who was your favorite fighter growing up?
Randy Couture.
Randy Couture?
The Natch. Loved Randy. Because like I said, old school quiet guy, like strong, silent killer. I loved that. Just an ass kicker in his 40s, beating up dudes.
Still a beast.
Yeah.
What fighter you've trained or fought hit the hardest?
Ooh. I'll go with guys I train with more than guys I fought. I mean, I've been hit up with guys. Ooh, that's a good one. Some of those dudes crack. I mean, and we're not trying to kill each other at practice.
Yeah.
You know what? It's honestly hitting the hardest. There's these boxer dudes that sometimes we go spar with out in India.
Yeah.
And I don't even know their names, dude. They're young, up and coming amateur dudes, but when they throw those punches with the head on, you go, damn, dude, you're 18.
What gym are they at?
Joel Diaz out in India. Yeah, in Coachella. Yeah. So, yeah, that's where it comes out of. And, they bring us there for sparring. Yeah. Those dudes probably just strictly punches. Some of those young bucks who are 18, like pro debut 1-0 guys, crack.
They're ready.
And then there's these Russian dudes who go in there who from like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan who they train with, it's just another worldly punching power. So guys I train with more for sure, and I've been hit hard in fights, but definitely those guys.
All right, outside the octagon, what fighter would you like to be friends with that you're not training with already?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Personality.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh man, there's so many. I like you said, because I like guys for who they are. Like the fighting thing's cool, but like, who are you really?
Yeah.
So I mean, let me just think off top, dude. There's a bunch, and there's a bunch in different organizations. There's so me and my coach talked about it. The dude, I forget how to say his first name, but he actually got knocked out by Joaquin Buckley with that spin kick.
Oh,
they cut him, and then he went to PFL and he won the $1 million tournament.
Yeah.
And then me and my coach were like, talking about how fighting tests people, like how bad do you still want it after that kick, going viral, going back to the gym.
Yeah, dude, it's
winning the tournament. And then I was like, yeah, that dude is. And I went on his Instagram, and it was just cool as hell. And I'm like, oh, dude, in real life, I'm like, I'd be like, dude, let's hang out. We used the $1 million. He started like farming on it. He bought some land, started farming on it in Florida. He's out there at Kill Cliff.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just off top of dude I'm gonna think of, like, where I'm like, oh, I would love to just kick it with dude. Like
super dope
stuff. So I mean, there's a bunch more guys, but off top, I could just think of recently I went on his Instagram. I'm like, he seems like a cool ass dude. We'd have similar values, aligned values. Like, yeah, he's like uses money, bought some land. I'm like farming on it now, like built like plant stuff.
That's pretty cool, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm trying
After
to do
how
that.
He got cut in the UFC, got viral KO'd. It was the most viral knockout of all time. And he didn't tuck his tail. He didn't go out and quit and hide. I mean, he probably laid low for a little bit, got his bearings back together, went out, won the PFL $1 million, and got some land. He's planting stuff on it. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
That's what I'm talking about.
I like that stuff outside of fights. To me, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Who would you most want to fight in the UFC?
Oh, it would be one of those things where it would be like, for me, kind of like dream test your meta kind of thing. And I know he just got, it wasn't good for him, but Volkanovski to me, because what he was at 45. And I know he just lost to Poirier and he lost to Islam. But just how he held that division down. Like, honestly, like as a warrior's test kind of thing. Like, okay, like let's see what the lifetime of training gets you. And it might not be, it's not going to be pretty and it might not go your way, but just to see
his commercial
that fortitude. But it could. Yeah. But just on the mental, physical, spiritual stuff, like, let's see what you got, dude.
I like
that would be for me just because of he's a full package as a fighter.
I like very well-rounded. So in a zombie apocalypse, what fighter would you want by your side?
Oh, well, I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he wants his name out there, but there's a coach, and the guys from Bloodline know who I'm talking about, but there's a coach out of Jackson Wink who is very high up in the military style world who we stay with sometimes, and he is for sure being around him 100% to where guys on the team we've been around were like, dude, if it pops off, we're going to Tusa knows him.
Tusa's a really good friend of mine, so I'm definitely going to talk to Tusa.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I just had lunch with Tusa. We had lunch with Tusa.
We stayed at his cabin when we were in Albuquerque. In the mountains, so they know. Just because I don't care about any fighter, he's for sure the guy. 100%. And I'll join his if he creates his own little army state. I'm down.
Okay.
100%. Let's plan a
Who are your top 5 UFC fighters of all time?
Ooh, of all time, because it's all time, so I'm going back. But like I said, Couture for me was a huge one just because of the influence.
Yeah.
I love GSP. I love the mental part, just how articulate he was with things. I'm gonna go Cub for what he's done for me personally, just been around me as a mentor and like getting me in the game and seeing, and just longevity, how Cub is in his 40s still doing it at the featherweight division.
And a good person.
And then those are 3. I'm gonna go with BJ, because the way BJ, just the whole, I love the island thing, and just he was about it. Yeah. You know, about it. And then see, this is gonna be 4 or 5 is Khabib Conor. I like them both. I love I love what he did to the sport.
If you only had to choose one, who are you going with?
Just because the wrestling thing resonates with me, the mountain living.
I knew.
I got it. And Conor, I love a big call. I love just what he's done to the sport, how he's brought to the next level, dude. It's insane.
But I knew
the mountain living.
I'm the same. So
you gotta respect that warrior.
My style is Khabibish.
Yeah.
I like to suck the soul. Like I literally.
That's a different thing.
I like to stylistically. A lot of his technique is exactly just like I is 100%. So I
people who have never fought or trained go, like if you're just watching, like I said, a fan and you're like entertain me kind of thing, I could see where they're like they don't get it. But if you've had another man hold you down against your will and you can't do anything about it, that's almost sometimes scarier,
bro. I cannot. He is the only person, like I get invited all the time and people are like, dude, come watch the fight at our house. Come watch, man, we're having a party. Bro, I cannot do it. When I hear people say, just get up. Look, man, I'm sure if he could get up, he would not want those elbows thudding off of his forehead right now.
He's not trying to get up.
Thank you.
He's not trying to get up.
Exactly. You thought he was like, hey, I just want to lay here and let this grown man just rain down on top of me. No.
So, but I just like something about, like I would love to before my career is over, and I know I will. I've talked to my coach about it, manager, go out to the I would love to go out to the Caucasus Mountains of Dagestan, Georgia, freaking Chechnya, and just for, I don't know, a camp or month, 6 weeks, like train just to get that vibe, just because I love, it is similar to me. It reminds me, like I wasn't raised like that. Obviously, I'm from Southern California, but just the tight with my dad, the training relentlessly, like this is what's the goal. Like it reminds me a little bit of how I was raised in that sense, where it's like, you're around a bunch of people, like training hard. It's
like a Viking type mentality.
And as a kid, I couldn't relate to other kids. Like I had that real issue of, unless you're on the team with me, but our club team, we're all from different little cities.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to school with any of them. I remember being at school and not like relating to kids. Like, I didn't go to the Kool-Aid party and play T-ball. Like I was training hard. We had to do 50 pull-ups at the end and we were crying, hanging on the bar. Like, and kids were like, what? And so when I see them doing it, and then other kids, like there was that one viral video where they're at a wedding and either Dagestan or Chechnya, I'm not sure which. Yeah. Don't get mad at me, but they're at the wedding, and then it cuts to the back, and there's just a wrestling mat, and kids are just wrestling on it at the wedding. And I'm like, see, I would have been. I'm like in my head, I'm like, that would have been for me as a kid. Like, that's where I was.
That's where
I was at.
Dude.
Yeah,
like, those people. So a little bit of that in me, and I'm like, I would love to go out there just to be like, okay, I get it. There's a place in the world where I would like, okay, you would have fit in the Caucasus Mountains of Russia.
Yeah, nowhere.
Peace.
Yeah. So I respect and love that lifestyle, and for me, I think that part's cool.
I think
so.
I have a vibe.
Would you ever just random question? Like, would you ever just like go to training camp in like the mountains of like Big Bear or something like that, and go like isolate from everyone else just to go for a training camp?
If I had people around me, like a team around me, absolutely.
Yeah, they'll do that sometimes and just like run away.
Absolutely. It wouldn't have to be a fight camp for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how I roll. Like I get in my mode. Like it's hard for me, like relationship wise, because I get in modes where, and most people don't understand like that mentality. Like I'm like, bro, I just don't want to be bothered. Like I just want to go.
Dude,
isolate. I'm just let me go.
Well, that's what the beach for real is to me, because it's like maybe it's a nature thing, just being around nature.
Yeah.
But to me, dude, I have friends and people I've known, and they're like, oh, dude, like talking about me. They're like, you'll go to the beach and you'll just hang out by yourself. I'm like, yeah, all day.
Yeah.
And I'll be in paradise, in my own head, watching nature, hanging out,
calming,
getting the sun.
So calming.
Ocean
is doing things. Like I just told him, it's funny.
I don't need people around me to get entertainment. I can be by myself.
We just talked about. I said, bro, when we get done, the new Godzilla versus Kong
King Kong. Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, I looked at it's on today at 4:30. I'm like, bro, I'm just gonna go by myself. I said, dude, I'm gonna look like a shyster just coming in here, but I'm cool.
With the bullet to it.
Yeah,
they're like, check, dude.
Anybody watching kids?
People grabbing their kids' hands, like, watch out.
True story.
But I'm with you on that, dude. But maybe that's part of that too, is like the little fighter in us. Where it's like, fighting ultimately at the end is like you have your team and support, and that's a part of your base.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're out there by yourself.
Yeah.
You're by yourself, and you need to know that you can rely on yourself.
Versus me.
You need to know that you can rely on yourself.
Versus me.
100%. So maybe that's a little bit apart. Maybe we're attracted to that, or it builds that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with that. 100%.
I love it. Yeah.
So how do you define success in your life?
Success in I would like to define it as, just thinking in my head, trying to put it out there and like verbalize it. When you are doing something that you love to do, but ultimately it forces you to be better. So you're not just doing something you love that,
just
it's degenerate, or it's making you a worse person. Where you're doing something you love, and because you love it, you will pursue it at a high level. But while you're pursuing this thing at a high level, it's not letting you delve into your, base animal instincts. It's forcing you to whatever that is for you. Elevate. And for me, it's fighting. It's the ultimate thing. It's the ultimate competitive thing for me.
Yeah.
And it forces me in every aspect, if I want to be good at it, to chip away at any little mental demons I have and to go up. So for me, that would be success. But it could be, you could be kite surfing. It could be freaking, I don't know, whatever your thing is.
Right.
Yeah.
But it forces you to
high level.
Yeah.
Do your best and all that stuff. Yeah.
And you love it, so you want to do it. You're fired up to do it. You're not waking up like, you're waking up like, okay, it's gonna be hard, but I get to do this thing.
Right.
And then the thing you get to do forces you to, elevate. But that's my definition for it now. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll be like, I was wrong.
We're constantly evolving and elevating, so things constantly,
That's my definition right now at this time and place. But
so this last question is going to be a deep one.
Okay.
If you need to take a second, take a second. But I know you trained earlier. You need to get some food. You got a lot of stuff going on, so we'll cut it out with this one. But if today was your last day, what would you want Chris to be remembered for?
If today was my last day, if I had to call it quits, on to the next, I would hopefully like to be remembered that someone that left a mark wherever they were, and it was spreading light and love, and then hopefully forcing people to, the energy I brought, people were attracted to, and it helped them get better. And maybe that's the coach in me, and like with my dad's recent passing, I was more seeing what people said about him, stories and stuff. And it was funny, just the stories they were, like it was from the age of he was fit, people who knew him when he was 12 to people who knew him at the very end of his life. It was like, your dad made me level up. Like, And it didn't matter who he was talking to. It didn't matter if you were a senior citizen at the YMCA care, he's like helping you, or if you were, he was at 15 and he's the oldest of 5 boys, and he was the leader. So I like to be remembered as, you know, a leader, not a follower. And then anyone I was around, you know, try to bring a light energy to people and never be the down in the room. Like, all right, we can do this, like kind of an optimistic thing. And, you know, hopefully spreading light and love to whoever I came with, spreading good energy. Well, that's hopefully what I'd be remembered for. But hopefully I got a lot more living to do. I'm not done.
Definitely that. But I'll say, honestly, with these interviews, I always take something away. And for me, like I said before, you radiate this positive energy. And I feel like even in this conversation with you, for me, it kind of has motivated me to see things in a bigger picture, like talking about your dad. And you know, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing that with me, because like I said, it kind of pulled at my heartstrings, because, you know, I want to be similar to what you said your dad is. And I can see your dad looking down at you, and as you say these things, him smiling, knowing that he passed 100%, these things 100%. Down to you, and that you are using this to pass down to the people that you coach. But bigger than that, just people that you meet, because I've known you an hour and a half. I mean, we've met before, but never had a deeper. And I feel like you've made me a better person within that hour and a half. And going forward, we definitely are going to keep in touch. And, you know, hopefully same thing. I always say for me, going through all of the chaos that I had to go through, I always, for a long time, I questioned, why me? And then I learned that I'm a vessel for God. And I constantly try to use what I've been through to put good out. When the devil tried to entice me 100 times, thousands of times, to say, oh, well, this all happened, so you should do this over here. This all happened, so you should be negative. And for me, I wake up every morning and I think to myself, is it easy every morning? No. But I think to myself every morning, I want to be and do better for myself, and be and do better for other people, to elevate them and kind of make them be better.
Preach.
So,
thank you for coming by. I learned a lot, especially as like a young man. What I took away from it is like how you just show up every day, because this is what you want to do. And you're comfortable with letting go of anything that does not help you, as long as you also give equal value to that as well. You see it in your coaching, you see it in your day-to-day, in your work ethic. And for me, like, I'm 25, so I'm still learning about and navigating like those relationships that kind of come and go, the career path that I choose, and how I want everything to intertwine, so that way I can perform and be that person, because I want to be a father pretty soon. I want to help my friends and family learn how they can do something like that as well too.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
May 25th. We will be there. I'm
Visalia.
I'm going to, I don't even know where it's at.
By Fresno. It's in the middle of nowhere, but
I don't even know where it's
gonna
at,
be epic.
But whatever it is, are we driving or flying?
Are
we driving or flying? How far is it away?
3 hours?
Yeah,
3.5 hours.
Oh, okay. I'm driving.
You flew it on the 5.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I'm driving this weekend to Sacramento.
All right. I'm going to get my tickets.
It's probably 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's all good. Whatever it is, I'm coming.
Right on.
So thank you so much, guys. We are signing off. We hope that you be and do better, and that we were a light to you. Thank you so much. And we are signing off. Thank you, brother.
Boom.